So, after the last video popped off relatively, I figured I'd do something relating to comic book characters. And what I landed on is romances, specifically within animated comic book shows. This is always a challenging subject, easily swayed by personal bias, but all the more reason it would be an interesting subject to tackle. And as the making of this video panned out, it just so happens that the three showcases happens to be what are generally considered the three big superheroes, so this will be fun. Anyway, let's delve into some examples. Batman is generally known for his variety of love interests, ranging from normal journalists, feisty cat burglars, and daughters of immortal warlords. I'm here to focus on specific examples, so here's one from debatably the most iconic Batman animated movie, Batman: Mask of a Phantasm. At this point, Bruce has started crime fighting, but he hasn't quite donned the Batman persona yet. And with Andrea, she represents what Bruce could be. Finding love, moving on. I question whether this movie is like a good mystery. I mean, the two suspects are Andrea and Andrea's father, and we hardly ever see Pops. So he fits nicely into red herring territory compared to a close connection that is Andrea. However, this is a good dramatic love story. We have a scene of Bruce pleading over his dead parents' grave, talking about being deterred from the mission. He didn't count on being happy. Andrea comes in after Bruce pleads, "Tell me it's going to be okay," with her saying maybe they already have.
Please, tell me that it's okay.
Maybe they already have.
They hug later. This is sort of a fine line between being awkward like, "Why you talking to a gravestone, bro?" to maybe being a bit soulmate obsessed. She shares similar experience with Bruce, loss of family, but at the same time isn't really dwelling on it. This is also a scene where Kevin Conroy gets really emotional, and had to get comforted by the director later. There's a bit of determinism with whether, if Bruce got with Andrea, if he would have ended up going down the route of being Batman. Which, in the end, Andrea leaves abruptly, and he goes down that path anyway. And with how Andrea became Phantasm, both were clearly destined for their given roles, whether or not together. So it's possible they could become a crime-fighting duo if anything. A lot of Batman's love interests explore this, but none quite strike like this one, especially at this point in time. Certainly the best showcase I could think with Kevin Conroy Batman, which makes it fun how he has an array of ships as the very series went on, from Lois to Wonder Woman. Next up we have SpiderMan. He's another character known for quite the variety of love interests, like the exuberant Black Cat. His status quo is usually Mary Jane, being that fun girl from his time at school. And while the comics have messed with his story, it seems to be the general status quo accepted within movies and video games. He's also, just in general, known for having a messy life. You know, he's supposed to be the relatable superhero who goes through struggles. Now Gwen is known as the love interest Peter lost earlier in his career. That's what's noteworthy about her, a tragedy. However, adaptations have played around with that. Spectacular Spider-Man has a big showcase for Gwen, which paved the way for how affectionate she is within the Amazing Spider-Man movies. The show deals a lot with Peter's personal life, which gives a lot of development for the likes of Gwen, as well as other characters like Harry, Eddie, Flash. As the series goes on, Peter ends up with Liz, while Gwen ends up with Harry. Then in the final episode, Peter finally talks to Gwen about the fact they kissed about 13 episodes ago, and they both finally admit that there is love for each other. They almost kiss, but knowing that they are technically with other people, they decide that they have to break up their respective couples for them to be together.
No, not behind Harry's back, or Liz's.
Right. We have to break it off with them first.
It'll be hard, but...
Then we can be together.
This is crazy. I actually find this more wild than the Green Goblin twist, honestly. Harry and Liz are not bad people. They are all deserving of love, even if Harry's going through some shit. It's just that Peter and Gwen feel that strongly about each other. I never recalled Peter and MJ committing this hard. This has to be the craziest Spider-Man love story out there. And there's one with the devil. And in the end, Harry doesn't end up getting broken off, due to being in an emotionally vulnerable state. So there's where it ends. Peter and Gwen have confessed loving each other, but can't be together due to messing up their third wheel.
Oh, I got your messages. Was there something you wanted to tell me?
It was nothing.
What a way to end a series. I'm all for the show coming back, but knowing this is a kid show, they probably would have never killed off Gwen and made her leave through more mutual means. But how do you go back from this crazy love pact? This might have been the perfect place to cancel the show. However, if it did come back all these years later, then maybe something like the death of Gwen Stacy could be explored, or even just let Peter and Gwen be together. I mean, you've seen the Spider-Man voice actors with the other Wiseman show Young Justice. I considered talking about Young Justice couples for this video, but I had a quota for one teenage couple while having two other adult couples, and this would be hard to top. Also, I had a pitch for a Young Justice Season 5, which likely would have thrown a major wrench into how Wally Artemis played out. But another time. Possibly. Anyway, now we got Superman himself. Compared to the other two, he's the most stationary with love interests. It's generally supposed to be with Lois. Of course, there could be the childhood farm friend with Lana Lang, or sometimes Wonder Woman, but Lois is often the ground default. I'll be honest, while I like them as a pair, there's a bit of skepticism with how they work. I mean, where does Lois go from thinking Clark and Superman are two different people to loving Superman no matter what through thick and thin? To be honest, with what Man of Steel did with Lois just knowing Superman was Clark from the start was kind of refreshing. And even working through more normal status quo, I just assume if anything, Lois has always known that Clark was Superman, and was just pretending not to know the difference, and maybe was just waiting until Superman is brave enough.
And this the best story in years? Swell chance.
Anyway, my Adventures of Superman challenges the notions with them, with some ups and downs. I like she at least learned relatively quickly. And in the episode where she definitively learns Clark is Superman, I was on her side and felt like Clark should have stopped playing an idiot. Then she jumped off a building. I assumed this was a carryover from an old trope from older comics, but that bit kind of losed me.
Swell chance.
And in season 2, where they are a more definitive couple, things get a little more interesting. So the first half of the season deals with them having a series of miscommunications or just lack of communication, which leads to more distance and misinformation within their dynamic. They constantly talk how they'll talk later, and don't really do that.
You had something too?
It can wait. This is more important. There's something we need to talk about.
Talk later, okay?
We'll talk later, okay?
Okay. We'll talk later.
We also get a lot of people who pull against their cute dynamic for seemingly no reason. Clark has an idea of eating ramen on the rooftop, and everyone pushes against it for seemingly no reason. It's not that Superman can't have grand romantic gestures. Something like ramen on the rooftop seems quaint for Superman. And he does do some flying with her anyway. Turns out Lois was so preoccupied she didn't realize it was even Valentine's Day today anyway. Also, looking at the people pushing against them, there's Cat Grant, who is a whiny gossip journalist. Hank Henshaw, who talks of big romantic gestures with his lover, yet ended up in a bachelorette contest somehow, and is also a prick. There's Sam Lane, who constantly calls Clark weird, yet is doing dumb stuff like constantly staring at the door, and his most trusted contacts ended up betraying him in the end. So why don't you find better friends? And Vicky Vale, who is a backstabbing reporter, who really shouldn't be trusted or taking job offers. Like, there are all these stupid, dumb people who are pushing against Lois and Clark's very simple and very quaint relationship. Eventually, things do come ahead in the Bachelorette episode, which admittedly was overall a very dumb concept. But I guess if you have them break up, might as well be during something as silly as a Bachelorette contest. Anyway, there, Lois reaches a boiling point thinking someone else would probably be better for Clark anyway.
Everyone always leaves me in the end. So why are we even doing this?
Lois, are you breaking up with me?
And the thing is, they theoretically could have resolved their issues right there within an hour. They reached a boiling point. They're getting all their issues out. Lois never even directly breaks up with Clark. They could have communicated just a little more. Then Kara busts through and ends up taking Clark, resulting in the second half of the season. During this time, we see the regret Lois has in this moment of weakness. Livewire ends up motivating Lois, saying love isn't for cowards, while almost betraying them 30 minutes ago.
The plan was for us to get away scot-free while you took the fall. But love is not for cowards!
Meanwhile, with Clark, we see he is slightly haunted by the event, ultimately being used by Brainiac as a weak spot to eventually possess him. So now it's up to Lois to go into Clark's mind to undo this mess. Something I like about this is that with all the relationship tension within the first half of the season, this segment feels very easy peasy. Like, just evade the dead parent holograms and get some right words with Clark. In the simulation, Brainiac makes Clark a cuck scientist who likes cake because he has such a low opinion of him. So a few episodes later, Lois and Clark have talked their stuff out, resolve her issues, and are now stronger than ever to break Brainiac's mind prison.
I didn't name you Superman because of what you could do. I called you that because it's who you are.
Fingers crossed season 3 doesn't give him any more relationship drama. I think if nothing else, this show shows how Lois and Clark's dynamic could work, especially within the face of challenges and annoying people. While Lois might have insecurities, doesn't mean she can't have the strength to overcome them. And while Superman is the most powerful superhero, doesn't mean he can't have a partner who is a grounding force. Overall, it's some feel-good stuff which makes the couple stronger for themselves and each other. Anyway, overall, these are some very superhero relationships. What are some of your takes? What are some others worth exploring? Feel free to vent, comment, and let me know. Cheers.